Going live. Good morning, Facebook. I mean, not Facebook, YouTube. They're becoming very similar almost. That's why. Good morning, Facebook. Oh, man. It is Sunday morning. And what specific day is it? The 20th? No, today is Mother's Day. Holy shit, that's right. Today's Mother's Day. I am almost happy Mother's Day to all the good mothers. I'm almost 40, and the amount of years that I've spent watching YouTube, I've listened to a ton of debates, a ton of people talk about different various things. Camera's kind of crooked. And I didn't say, there we go. Say Christopher Hitchens definitely has been pretty interesting to listen to him, and I'm trying to remember what the other guy's name was. I liked Amazing Atheist because to me he was funny. He was like, his personality is very outrageous, like over the top. That's what I enjoy about watching him. I'm trying to think of this other atheist. His name, I think, is the Atheist. Well, the Atheist Experience is one, but his name is kind of like similar, Atheist Experience, and I think that's one that's a show, and then there's the Atheist. God damn it! Excuse me for swearing something that I have no idea it's there or not there. Are you making coffee?
I done told you. I said I will get to it.
And your ass is on camera.
What? Go ahead. I don't care. I got things to do.
What was that other atheist? What was the other atheist name? There was the Atheist Experience, and then there was another one. Well, some help you are. You making that coffee though? Good help's so hard to find. I mean, you can get a good back and shoulder rub, but finding somebody to make you some good coffee, that's completely different. That's another atheist show, podcast. His voice reminds me of like a radio, kind of like one of those old radio talk shows almost. But it's not a bad name of it is, and it's just slipping my head right now. I can't think of what the other part of it's called. It's like Atheist something, but I know when I was a lot younger, before I knew anything about atheism, theism, agnostic, gnostic, like all these different words. I had no idea what any of those things were. I didn't consider myself religious because I never fit in with those type of people. Like, because their whole thing to do was with group mentality of like being together as one, one thing, one group. They have a community and they build a community up to, kind of together. So if you're not on that in group, then it's harder for you to be part of that group than it is somebody who's already part of the group, or somebody who's a family or friend or something. And I never really fit in that way. In middle school, and I didn't even find out I needed glasses whenever until I was in junior high school. So that just, I wasn't surprised I wasn't catching on as quickly as I should have been, but it didn't really help whenever I was moving around to different schools. Um, I I wasn't naturally good at drawing, so when people asked me, whenever I was going to school, if I could really draw, or somebody would be watching me draw and find it, you know, interesting. It's just something that I practiced for many years. I learned how to draw by looking at something and drawing it, not the way I've seen people learn how to draw, where they draw like a round shape and draw the stick figure thing and then go from there. I learned to draw just by looking at the shapes of the pictures, and drawing it out and the detail. Um, some of them turn out better than other ones, but for the most part, they all turn out pretty pretty similar, pretty close to what I'm actually drawing. I always just found like pictures, like people's artwork pictures, interesting. Um, the interesting thing about art is like, somebody's interpretation of it, or like to take with comic books. They put their own spin on their idea of a comic book when they're making their own comic book. Like DC's doing some really cool stuff, especially with Batman, like the whole that black metal. Those comic books are pretty cool. I was listening to, I think it's called Rob Explains Comics. He was explaining that whole thing to do with Batman. That was pretty cool. Like, then mythology has a lot to play in, like video games. It has a lot to play in society. Um, it has a lot to play in movies, politics. It's been around for a while. So when people suggest, or they say, I know this thing is true, it's because it's been passed down for generations. It's been passed down for thousands of generations, for a long, long time. Um, it hasn't been around as long as like evolution's been around, because if we never evolved, we wouldn't be what we are today. We wouldn't have the cognitive abilities like we do. Um, Cognitive, your mental faculties, um, supposedly, evolving. There's a lot of different things that I've learned about it. I had no idea. Like humans, brains evolved from eating cooked meat. I found that as an interesting thing that I learned about. Um, and just like that, like what evolved with humans was this mentality of religious mentality, a theism type of ideas, like whether it's like monotheism, or see, some of these um, words I get a little bit confused. It's mono is like one, so it's like monotheism, and then the other one where it's like more than one, where they have more than one god. Um, but the origins, like for the idea of soul, is when somebody dies and they take like their last breath, and that leaves their body, and then that's where like the idea of soul comes from, is your last breath that you know that you have before you die. Um, it's interesting, like our technology. The more our technology gets better, with our medicine, and like traveling. all these things make it far more accessible and easier to take care of people and help people and make them better than what we previously were able to do. I'm trying to do a live video talking about many different things to make it last as long as possible, because I know a lot of YouTubers are able to talk for like hours on end, but I want to at least try to fill as so many different uh, topics as I can, like so I can explain why it is the way I think things are to me. Like to me personally, why I think it is the way it is, especially having religion and non-religion. Like if you believe in a higher power, that's different than being religious in a church group. Like you're taking very specific. If you are a deist and you believe in a higher power, that's nothing very specific. But if you're religious, like you're part of a religion, then that's very more specific. Like the whole thing to do with circumcision, that's a crazy type of story. I'm citing back from what I learned about it, like from my head, off my head, from what I learned about it, what I read about it, or whatever. To do with I think it's Moses from the Bible, that's walking through the desert. He has his wives with him, his wives, and they used to do blood sacrifice, where they would sacrifice someone or something, to the gods, so they wouldn't, so the god wouldn't, come after them or kill them. They would have that sacrifice. So instead of sacrificing somebody, one of his wives, he said, this kind of reminds me, this Gandalf kind of reminds me of like, kind of reminds me of that Moses idea. But I always liked Gandalf. He's cool. He's a cool mythological character. One of my favorites. Um, but so he takes this baby's, cuts the baby's dick skin off, and since it's bloody, he throws it behind him. So that way, I think it was to do with not being destroyed if he looks at God, and since he throws the blood sacrifice with the baby's dick skin, that's where the whole idea for like that ritual comes from. And there's no real reason to cut dick skin off. People make up reasons saying that it's cleaner if we cut the dick skin off, but that's not true. That's completely that's completely not true. There's no evidence for that claim at all. Like to the, cut the dick skin off makes it cleaner. No, that's not true at all. Like there's many nerves in the forehead skin. So whenever you're cutting that dick skin off, you're killing all of those nerves. Like people that have that done have the nerve damage of that. They might not actually recall it, that memory of that pain was there. And whenever you're having sex, and it affects people's sex lives, that have had that done, because apparently that skin is supposed to make it feel much better than what it normally does because of all those nerve endings. And if you get your baby's dick skin cut off, they're missing out later on in life because of a fucking religion and a religious idea from a religious cult. I mean, that's how crazy it is. We got this whole idea of thinking that it's a valid practice when it's not. It's not something that's normal. It's not normal at all. Like I don't really understand why some. I'm not saying all Jewish places, synagogues, whatever the fuck. I don't get why there are some of the, not all of them, because I know some Jewish rabbis, like, they use a tool or whatever to cut that shit off, but like some of them, that would just turn me off of that religion altogether, and I would just be part of another one. But I just don't, to me, it doesn't hold any value. Well, I can't necessarily say that 100% it doesn't hold any value, but some people it's so like part of their mentality that's why they hold on to it very strongly and mentally gets them through, their lives, their daily lives. People hold really strong values in it because if you think of death all the time going through life, I'm sure it makes it much more depressing. I know each year when I get older, I feel like death's hand on the back of my shoulder, just wondering when death is going to actually come and get me. Because death is a very real thing. It happens to everybody. It's not something that you can avoid. At least not yet. Like, maybe I could be wrong. Science could come up with some shit that they've already made people's lives last much longer than they normally do. I mean, back however many hundred years ago, like during the Western times, people died pretty early on. But today it's gone from like 30, 40 years maybe to like, or 50, around there, give or take, to like closer to 100. Like, some people live over 100 years old. Like, I think the oldest woman was over 100 years old. She was like a. Do you remember how old that Asian lady was? The one that recently died?
I don't know why.
Wasn't she like 109 or something?
I think so.
You mind Googling it for me? I love Google. Google is so awesome. Yeah, she's an Asian lady. She was like over 100 years old. I think she was like 109 or some crazy. She was some really crazy number. She was really high up there. When I tell people like where I'm from, they don't necessarily say I sound like I'm from the place that I am, because I live in the South. And a lot of people that are from the South, they have a real specific sounding voice. And by my voice, you couldn't guess exactly where I'm from. That's what I've been told, but that really doesn't have a lot to do with the religious aspect. But why I believe the like, not really believe, but why I take the information for what it is, the scientific information for what it is because, like, you can look at religion and you can look at what the science claims, and that's a scientific theory. Scientific theory is basically a fact. They just don't call it a fact. That's what it is, but they call it a scientific theory because these theories that they're.
You're talking about that lady?
Is it an Asian lady? They said it was an Asian lady that recently died. That one's 117, but this one, I think she was maybe around that age.
This one was, her name's Emma Morano. She was born in, she was in Italy.
No, this woman was like Asian. She either died before or after her, but I think she may have been a little bit older though, because she was the world's oldest person. I could be wrong on the details, maybe.
Well, this says the most oldest.
Yeah, but like every time somebody dies, there's somebody else who's the oldest, because when you die, you're not technically the oldest because you're dead. I mean, this woman, they said she was like the world's oldest though. That when she before she died. I think they said she was like 109 or 19 or something. But they said she was the oldest. I'm just going by based off of what that story was saying. I just figured that.
Well, there's one here that is. I don't know how you pronounce her name.
Well, that's because it's in.
She died. She just died here April 21st of this year. She was 100. It says age 117 years.
117. I knew she was around there
She's
somewhere.
from Japan.
Why was it saying it that she was the oldest if the other lady was older? That's why I don't understand.
The other lady that died too was 117.
I thought you said that the one that just died was. Oh, okay. They were both 117 when they died? Okay, so which one died first?
The other one.
Oh, the Italian lady?
The Italian lady died. She died April, I think the 16th.
April 16th?
I think that's what it says on here.
I like Comic Pro Secrets. That's just a random thing. Well, it's not random because I like comic artists, and I like that guy is funny too. I don't know. Somebody needs to explain exactly how
she died. April 16th of 2017. She died over a year ago.
Okay.
That's why the other one's the oldest living one.
What, the Italian lady?
The Italian lady died a year ago.
Oh, okay, so the
Asian lady died this past April.
The reason why we can't say her name is because it's in that lettering. It's like Japanese or Chinese or whatever. And me or my wife don't know how to read Japanese or Chinese. Well, whenever I show this on the screen, okay, wait, here it's at the top. That's her name.
At the top.
Nabi.
Nabi.
Yeah. Her name's Nabi. Nabi. Go make my coffee.
It is making.
Oh, make sure it is. Nabi Tajima. Nabi Tajima. I think is how you pronounce it. Nabitajima. It's a really crazy sounding name, to say the least. But yeah, 117 years old. Holy shit, dude. I don't know, man. I don't know if I could do it that long.
She was born August 4th, 1900.
August 4th, 1900?
Yeah, 1900.
Just think about it. That whenever she was born, they didn't have cell phones. They had a regular phone, right?
Mm-hmm.
They just
they had those.
I thought like they had the regular phones just before the 1900s. You want to look that up for me? My Google assistant. Hold on, I got Google on this.
She's had a certificate. She got a certificate that who was the oldest living.
I'm looking this up.
Person who was born in the 19th century.
Oh, yeah?
And the world's oldest living person from September 15th, 2017 until her own death.
You said she was born in 1900?
Yeah.
When did the phone... Okay, that may be what I was hearing or reading or whatever.
She had 9 children.
Nine?
Yeah.
This can't be right. I thought the phone came out before the 1940s. Or maybe this is just talking about when it was developed.
Her husband died in 1991 at the age of 95.
Oh, man. So she was alive for a while after he died?
Mm-hmm.
18. This said the telephone had been a thing since 1876.
It says she had 9 children, 7 sons and 2
I know
daughters.
you already told me about that. That's very boring.
Well, it says that she.
I know. I'm just saying it's very boring.
She had.
I know. I was saying it's very.
160
I know. I'm
grandkids.
just saying. 160 grandkids. That's. I don't know if I believe that. Anyway, this says the phone is from 1876, so just before the 1900s. So she was alive technically when there was the telephone, not cell phones, no mobile GPS or any Google or any shit like that. Just when you dial, you do the number, whatever type of phone there is, because phones are really different before even the circular ones. And yeah, that's crazy. So she lived through a lot of shit. A lot of shit. Like everything from then till up until she died recently. That is just crazy. You just imagine like seeing like the technical evolution of everything going on, and it's just, and this is what's strange to me with religion is people they'll still use all these technological advances and science what science has evolved technology to become what it is, and they don't mind using that stuff, but then they want to praise like a being for all the stuff that humans come up with, and then still say that like give credit to some magical force. Or, the same thing like with if you go to a hospital and you get, taken care of, they still want to do that too. Thank you. Give credit to something that they have no idea if it's there or not. Instead of thank the damn doctor. Thank the damn doctor. If I go to the hospital and I'm really physically ill or sick or whatever the deal is, and I get seen and taken care of, every time that I've been and I'm feeling like shit, and the doctor helps me, gives me something to get better, to feel better, I thank the doctors. I thank the fucking doctor anytime that happens. Like there's some fucked up problem, if there's some fucked up problem with my ear or my foot or something, whatever the reason is that's making me feel like I cannot deal with it, and I go get taken care of, I always thank the doctor. If you go to the hospital and you're praying to this God or whatever, and you're thanking this God if everything's fine, turns out fine, and you're not thanking the doctor, you're a fucking dick. You're being a dick and a douche. That's just how I personally feel about it. Like if you're praising something and you're not telling the doctor thank you, you know how many fucking years a doctor has to go to fucking college, fucking a whole bunch of fucking time spent just learning how to be a fucking doctor. I can't even imagine fucking going through that. I mean, I wasn't born in a privileged family to be able to do something like that. And I'm not saying somebody can't do that, but if you're not, it's the way you're raised, and depending on, your family, what your family has, you can either be a screw up being poor, you can be a screw up being rich. But if you have the ability to do something, that's really good with your life, and you're born in the right type of family that makes a decent income, then you have a better chance than somebody who's born in a shit neighborhood with a big family, kind of reminds me of like those old mafia movies, like the Italian, or not the Italian, I mean, the Irish people. The Irish people, they like have like really big families. They can't afford to like hardly take care of their family and shit like that. And they left Ireland because of like potato famines and shit. Hmm. Not bad. Not bad at all. Yeah. Oh, what I was gonna ask is, I don't know. Nobody's watching this right now, but then I'll post it. And, maybe somebody, people. The reason why I do what I do is because it helps me, you know, vent out certain things. It makes me feel like people are listening whenever I'm making these videos. I don't necessarily do it because I'll think I'll be a big YouTuber, or I'll think I'll be famous or any of that bullshit. The reason why I make videos is because it emotionally it makes me feel better to feel like I'm being um, listened to um, by somebody. The what I don't get is the thing that I don't get is why do people assume like the Jewish people, like if you say anything negative towards like not necessarily negative, but just if you say anything about Jewish people, then it's looked at as if it was considered anti-Semitic and racist. Um, Now, correct me if I'm wrong, anybody. Um, I'm gonna look up the word anti-Semitic so that way I can be sure, because that word's always kind of confused me. But if Jewish is to do with the religion, just like Muslims to do with the religion, then how is that being racist? You're talking about something to do with the religion, not necessarily the race. So how is that looked at as racist? It's like if you're talking shit about a religion, you're not talking shit about those people. You're talking shit about the idea that those people hold. That's something that's completely not the same. I could understand if I was saying shit about, Italian people or Chinese people or people from Sweden, wherever. But I don't know. To me, it just never made sense. Um, s- uh, oh wait! I forgot. Anti Semitic Semitic definition.
Antiseptic.
Antiseptic. No, no, not antiseptic. God damn it. I'm looking up words about, about microorganisms. uh, Hold on. I'm no good. God damn it, Google. I didn't put anti-Semitic. It's whenever I'm typing on my keyboard on this deal, my thumbs must be so big they're typing the wrong letters. I swear it does this anytime I'm texting something on this phone. It does that because the buttons are so small. I use this kind of like a tablet device. I just use it for the Wi-Fi. I don't actually have cell phone service, but I use the cell phone to like go on Facebook, or like if I'm talking in like these different groups. Okay, let's try this again. And Semitic. Okay, that should be it.
Anti-Semitic.
Yeah, there we go. Hostile to or prejudiced against Jews. Hmm. Well, whenever I ask questions about Jews, and I'm not being hostile, and I'm not being prejudiced, I'm just asking questions. Like, say, if I ask, why do Jewish people have to be so cheap? That's just me asking a question. I don't know if that's being prejudiced or hostile. I know it's not being hostile because it's just a question. Is it is it prejudiced? Is it prejudiced if I ask why Jews are cheap? I don't know. To me, it's not. I mean, it's just it's just a question to me. I mean, if you get offended easily, then you might take it that way, and if you take it that way, then you might want to go get some Kleenex and wipe your eyes off, and cry in a corner. I don't know, whatever. If you get offended that easily, you should not be on the internet because there's a lot of fucking dicks on the internet. I know, like I fucking work out, and even though I work out to feel good about myself, I do take some pictures of myself, about how I'm getting in shape, like from I used to be kind of fat. Fucking dicks about it. I mean, I don't really get it. If I'm not talking shit to you, and I'm not talking shit to about your family or you or your friends or whatever it is, I'm not starting shit. Why are you starting shit with me? I get that there's trolls on the internet, um, but like if I was being offensive or out of line, I would understand the trolling. But I have getting or I have been trolled a few different times. But no, I like to think that I'm making some decent progress. I mean, I'm not like 100% skinny, but I mean, so if you don't have some fat, then can't really you can't really build your ab muscles to be really defined if you don't have some fat. I mean, that's what I'm trying to go for too. Is whenever I work on my abs, is so I have some kind of definition with my abs, and I'm still losing some weight. So I'm hoping. I mean, like I'm not just hoping that it'll turn out that way, but I mean, I actually do sit up workouts. I use a bench press. I use dumbbells. Um, I work a full time job. I do pretty much regular stuff that any other person would do. Um, Somebody got offended because I said they were saying that they had to borrow money from. And I'm not mentioning any specifics, but this person was saying it was a female, and she was saying she looked young, and she said she had a kid. And so I said, "Oh, okay. Well, did you try?" I don't know any other information about this girl. All I know is she was talking about borrowing money from her dad, and then her bank account ended up getting overdrafted. Yeah, $150. So the money that she did get didn't really get to use it for what she was wanting to use it for. And I said, well, there's these programs, these government programs that you can apply for if you need it. But then, I said, also, I wouldn't have any more kids if I were you, if you're having a hard time. I'm just listing all the things, that you would think were, what somebody would say to another person if they don't want to end up in a worse position than they're in. But this was like a group for anxiety type of issues. And this person got offended by what I said. Didn't and just the kind of when the last thing I read, she seemed like she might have got a little bit mad. But somebody else got like more upset than she did. Was the weird fucking part. Some girl was white knighting for her. I don't know if it works the same way if it's a chick that's doing it, but yeah, I was like, what the fuck, dude? And the stupid thing about it was they blocked me from making any more comments so I could say I'm not trying to offend or offend anybody. Fuck, I don't know what I would do if I moved somewhere and I was living around a bunch of younger people and they got offended by every fucking thing that you said or did. Like, it just makes me curious what all that these people get offended by. Um, I was born just before that generation, so it's just kind of odd to me how people can get offended so easily. I didn't really say anything offensive. Was what I didn't really understand. All I said was suggestions. Maybe trying to go on government aid. Lone Star or government housing. I But it turns out that she said she's not a single mother, that she has a husband, and they both work at the same place, teaching people how to swim. Okay, well, you're both working part time at this place teaching people how to swim, but you're paying daycare and your bills. It would make more sense and be much more affordable and cheaper if you stayed home with your kid, your baby. If you stay home with your baby and your husband goes and works a full-time job. I know it sucks, or you both work opposite shifts, so somebody's home with your baby. I know it sucks because I've done that before. I'm doing it now. It's just something that's, you know, the facts that if you have kids, you either have to have somebody watch your kids or you have to pay for daycare. And paying for daycare is not fucking cheap. And I don't see how you're paying for daycare working a regular job or even a fucking warehouse job. I mean, because if you're paying your regular bills and then you're paying daycare, you're fuck. I mean, to me, that's kind of dumb. That's fucking retarded. Um, I would suggest like having somebody in your family helping out. Maybe watching your kid or you staying home. That's why a lot of people say like if you have a kid, you know, you might as well stay home and watch your kid. And, be a stay at home mom. That makes it easier on you overall. When your kid gets older and they're going to school, you can find a job to go work. But doing that, you you're just making it harder on yourself, and you're making it basically pointless to go work if you're spending all your money on fucking daycare. Daycare is not fucking cheap. I swear. Like, some people are stupid. And then she got mad at me whenever I was just stating obvious facts. This isn't a minimum wage gap. Like if you make choices to have kids, and then you should take care of your responsibilities. That's why some people stay at home with their kids. It's because it was their responsibility. They had their kid. Now you gotta be responsible. I'm sure that triggered a lot of people that don't believe in like a household with two responsible parents, but fuck it. That's just what I think. Um, I believe that kids should be, if you're going to have kids, at least have some kind of family structure that's stable. You know, have them on a schedule. Kids should have structure. They need that type of thing, a structure. At least one neighbor that lived across from us when I was growing up. That guy let his kid drink beer. That kid was fucked up. I'm saying that kid was fucked up. And I grew up poor. I mean, fuck. It's not so much to do with race as it is to do with. I'm not saying it don't at all, but I'm just saying not so much to do with race as it does to do with like if you were born in a wealthy family or not, because you can't really say that there's no wealthy black families because that's bullshit. Will Smith, Obama. There's other examples because you have people who are, who played in sports. You have people who were part of the entertainment, business, all really, good careers, made plenty of money, So they can't tell me the people who had kids that had made a great amount of money and success um, didn't bank off of white people for their success because a large majority of the population is white people. Concerts, I can get. I'm pretty sure that a large majority is, I would say for the most part would be white. I could be wrong, but fuck, I mean, the black majority of the population is at like 12%, 12 point whatever percent. Then it's probably white because the United States is mostly, white people. But in the other parts of the world, it's not. But like the United States, it is. There's probably a few other countries out there that aren't, but I mean, for the most part, I'm just specifically talking about the United States. Hmm. Told you we'd be talking about different things. So, what are video games? Video games are just fucking garbage. I mean, there's a lot of video games where they're online, where they're free, and you have to pay for shit that should be in the video game. There is the exception of a few video games here and there that come out that you play that are pretty good. Um, like the new God of War game, it looks amazing. To me, they should have just called it something else, and I wouldn't have had any issues with it. But they kind of changed it as a brand of what it was, and they made it different into something else. Um, yeah, I mean he fucks shit up, but whenever he's fucking shit up, it kind of bursts into this whatever cloud of leaves or whatever the fuck it is. Like whenever shit dies, um, that gore factor doesn't seem like it's there. I would still kind of like to play it. I wish they would have called it something else because then you wouldn't have had that big burden of you know responsibility of pleasing God of War fans. I don't mind a game if it's different, but whenever you're trying to you know set the bar of gore and stuff in a video game, you know how are you doing that for guys or for us men, who like that type of shit in their games? You can play Mortal Kombat, of course. That game's still got going. I'm assuming. But where's that bar? Like, is is there still video games that are like over the top? I don't know. I haven't seen too many lately. Like the old God of War was like that. It was pretty fucked up. Yeah. Sunday morning, and I'm sure there's a lot of people that are in church. Hmm. What I noticed is my wife, her grandma had when she turned 18, I think it is, whatever age it was that she turned. She told them that they could stop going to church, that they didn't have to go anymore if they didn't want to. They could make up their own mind. Uh, for me, my parents, my dad didn't really go with us that I remember. It's he was working, so my mom dragged us a couple of times to when we were. I'm talking about real little. She dragged us to church a couple times, and we always fell asleep in that motherfucker because church was not interesting at all. And the facts that like when I was a little older and I was asking one of my sisters about it, my oldest sister. She's explained to me how all my childhood heroes and everything was fake. I said, okay, so if all the things I like are fake, Ninja Turtles, He-Man, Transformers, all of that cool shit. Well, at the time it was cool, but all that cool shit's fake. I said, what about this Jesus and this God? I said, is that fake too? I said, is Jesus God and the Holy Spirit and somehow they're all one being? Is that all fake? And she said, no, that's real. That at that moment, I didn't know what agnostic or skeptic or atheist was, but at that moment, that's when it clicked for me. And the same with the version of the Bible where Adam and Eve, everybody came from Adam and Eve, but Adam and Eve had two sons. So how can you have generations of people from two boys? That's clearly a gay relationship, and it's incest. And if the boys are having to have sex with their mom just to have more kids, I mean, that's just even more fucked up incest. So, biologically wise, that story doesn't really hold up. And I mean, evolution seems to make more sense than that story does. But whenever you say anything about those stories from the religion or whichever religion you're talking about, they're like, oh, well, you're not supposed to take it seriously. Then what's the point of having the story, these mythological mythologies, if they're not supposed to be taken for what they're written down as, or what they're written down, the way they're written down, or whatever. I know that they've been remade or retold or whatever, and the words mean 2 or 3 different things. And a lot of these people in the Bible possibly may have not been like actual real people, that some of them might not even existed. There's a lot of technical issues and technical errors. Oh, fuck. Yeah, but there's nitpick things about it. I think I'll end this video. If you like it, and you feel like giving me a thumbs up, that would be greatly appreciated. I don't usually ask for likes or subscribers, but I definitely appreciate it anytime if I get any of those, or comments or whatever. Thank you for watching on this what appears to be a lovely Sunday morning, and have a good rest of your Sunday, Mother's Day.